"When do we get the money?" My daughter Jennifer whispered it to her brother during the eulogy. Quiet. Just loud enough that I heard it from 6 feet away. Just loud enough that Thomas Brennan, my wife's estate attorney, heard it from the pew behind them. He didn't look at me, just wrote something in the small notebook he always carried. Margaret had been in the ground less than an hour. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The service was at St. Catherine's, same church where Margaret and I got married 43 years ago, same church where we'd baptized Jennifer and Paul. The priest was saying something about eternal rest, about Margaret's kindness, her warmth, how she'd volunteered in the children's ministry for 20 years. Jennifer checked her phone. Paul stared at the casket like he was calculating dimensions. His wife Amanda stood next to him wearing a black dress that still had the price tag tucked inside the collar. I could see it when she leaned forward. $89.99. She'd return it tomorrow. Margaret's sister Ruth sat in the front pew crying. Actually crying. Her shoulders shook. Tissue wadded in her hands. She'd flown in from Phoenix the day Margaret went into hospice. Sat with her every afternoon reading mystery novels out loud because Margaret couldn't hold a book anymore. Jennifer hadn't visited the hospice once. "Work's crazy, Dad," she'd said on the phone. "The Henderson account is in crisis mode. I'll come this weekend." Margaret died on Thursday. Jennifer showed up to the funeral home Saturday morning to help pick out arrangements, which meant she stood in the casket showroom saying things like, "The oak is nice, but the maple is $1,200 cheaper," while I tried not to scream. Now she was whispering to Paul about money while the priest blessed Margaret's casket. Thomas caught my eye, brief, then looked away. He'd been Margaret's attorney for 15 years, handled the trust when her mother died, updated our wills every few years, came to our house for the meetings because Margaret liked to serve coffee in her good cups, the white ones with blue trim she'd picked out at an estate sale back in the 90s. He knew Margaret, really knew her. The Christmas cards on his desk included one from us every year. He'd sent flowers when she was diagnosed. Called twice during hospice just to check on me, not about legal matters, just to see how I was holding up. He'd heard what Jennifer said. The service ended. People filed out to their cars for the burial. Jennifer and Paul walked ahead of me. I heard fragments. "The house has to be worth at least..." Checked Zillow, comparable properties. "Probably wants to do the grief thing for a few months, but..." Margaret's casket rolled past on the cart. Bronze handles she'd picked out herself 2 years ago when the cancer came back. "I don't want you making these decisions alone," she'd said. So, we'd gone to the funeral home together on a Tuesday afternoon and planned her funeral like we were picking out kitchen cabinets. She'd been matter-of-fact about the whole thing. Even joked with the funeral director about the markup on urns. But she'd cried in the car on the way home, not about dying, about leaving me alone with Jennifer and Paul. "They're going to circle you like sharks," she'd said. I'd told her she was being dramatic, that the kids would be fine, that grief brought out the worst in people sometimes, but they'd settle down. She'd looked at me with those tired eyes. "David, they asked me about the life insurance while I was in the hospital bed. Jennifer asked me about the life insurance policy." I thought she was confused. The medication made her foggy sometimes, but she wasn't confused. She wanted to know how much. She actually said, "How much is Dad getting?" like she was asking about a game show prize. At the burial, I stood at the graveside while they lowered Margaret into the ground. Same cemetery where her parents were buried. Plot next to theirs. Room for me on the other side when my time came. We'd bought them together. $3,400 for both plots. She'd held my hand while we signed the paperwork. Jennifer and Paul stood on the other side of the grave. Paul's two kids, Emma and Sophie, were with their mother at home. Funerals are too morbid for children, Amanda had said. Emma was 12. Sophie was 14. Old enough to say goodbye to their grandmother, but apparently Amanda had decided it would damage them somehow. Margaret had been asking to see them for weeks. They'd come once, 30 minutes. Emma had stayed in the car on her phone the whole time because Grandma looked scary. The priest finished. People started walking back to their cars. Ruth hugged me, long, tight. "I'm staying through Wednesday," she said. "I don't want you alone in that house yet." "I'm fine, Ruth." "I know you're fine. I'm staying anyway." Jennifer appeared at my elbow. "Dad, we need to talk about next steps." Next steps. Practical things. The house, the accounts, Mom's car. We should probably meet this week. Get everything organized before it becomes a mess. Paul nodded behind her. "We want to help, Dad. Take some of the burden off you." The burden, like Margaret's estate, was a heavy box they were volunteering to carry. "Thomas is handling everything," I said. "Right, but we should be involved. Family should be involved." Jennifer used her reasonable voice, the one she used in business meetings. I'd heard it once when I'd called her office and she'd been on speakerphone. Calm, logical, designed to make disagreement sound unreasonable. "Thomas will contact you when it's time." "When it's time?" Paul's voice went up slightly. "Dad, we're just trying to help you navigate this." Navigate, like Margaret's death was a complicated intersection. Thomas appeared. "David, I'll call you Tuesday. We'll schedule the will reading for next week. Let you have some time first." "Will reading?" Jennifer perked up. "We can do that sooner if it's easier. I can move my schedule around." Thomas looked at her. Cool. Professional. "Next week is appropriate." I watched his face. Blank. But something moved behind his eyes, something that looked like contempt wrapped in expensive attorney manners. We went back to the house after. Margaret had wanted people to gather. "Make sure there's food," she'd said. "I don't want people leaving hungry from my funeral." So Ruth and Margaret's book club friends had organized a whole spread. Sandwiches, salads, cookies from Margaret's recipe that her friend Diane had stayed up all night baking. 30, maybe 40 people came. Neighbors, church friends, Margaret's co-workers from the library where she'd worked part-time until the cancer made her too tired. They told stories, cried, laughed, remembered her. Jennifer and Paul stood in the kitchen talking quietly. I saw them looking at things, the cabinets, the appliances. Paul ran his hand along the granite countertop Margaret had wanted so badly. We'd saved for 2 years to remodel the kitchen. She'd picked out every detail, the backsplash, the fixtures, the cabinet pulls. "Granite's good," I heard Paul say. "Adds value." I turned away before I said something I'd regret at my wife's funeral. Thomas found me in the living room. "Tuesday, 10 a.m. My office. Just you. The kids will want to come. The initial meeting is just you. The will reading is next Friday. They'll be invited to that." He paused. Margaret was very specific about timing. Something in the way he said it made me look at him closer. What did she do, Thomas? Tuesday, 10 a.m. He handed me his card like I didn't already have his number. Then he left. People filtered out as the afternoon faded. Ruth started cleaning up. Margaret's book club friends helped. Jennifer and Paul left early. Work tomorrow, Jennifer said. Early meeting. You understand. She hugged me. Brief, perfunctory, the kind of hug you give someone at a networking event. Paul shook my hand. Actually, shook my hand at his mother's funeral reception. We'll talk soon, Dad, about everything. Then they were gone. Ruth found me sitting at the kitchen table at 8 that night. Same table where Margaret and I had eaten breakfast every morning for 43 years. The house was clean. The food was put away. It was quiet in the way it had never been quiet when Margaret was alive. Even when she was sleeping, even when she was sick, there was a presence, a warmth. Now there was just empty space where she used to be. They didn't cry, Ruth said. What? Jennifer and Paul, at the funeral, at the burial, here. I watched them all day. Neither of them cried once. She sat down across from me. I'm not saying people grieve differently. I'm saying they didn't grieve at all. I didn't answer. Couldn't. Because she was right. Margaret told me, Ruth said quietly, last week when you went home to shower. She told me she'd changed some things, legal things. She wouldn't tell me what, but she said you'd understand when the time came. She said the kids were going to be angry, but that it was necessary. She never told me she changed anything. She said you'd try to talk her out of it, said you always wanted to believe the best about them. Ruth's voice cracked. She said she had to protect you because you wouldn't protect yourself. The kitchen clock ticked, same clock that had been on that wall for 28 years. Margaret had bought it at a craft fair. The artist had signed the back. It had stopped once, years ago, and Margaret had taken it to a clock repair shop instead of just buying a new one because things that are made well deserve to be fixed. What did she change? I asked. I don't know. But David? Ruth waited until I looked at her. Whatever it is, trust her. She knew what she was doing. Tuesday morning. Thomas's office was downtown in one of the old restored buildings. Brick, high ceilings. His desk was oak, real oak, not veneer. Photos of his family on the credenza behind him. His daughter's college graduation. His son's wedding. A picture of him and his wife on a sailboat. I sat in the leather chair across from his desk. Same chair I'd sat in a dozen times over the years. Margaret always sat next to me, her hand sometimes finding mine when we signed documents, estate planning, power of attorney, living wills, all the paperwork that comes with trying to prepare for a future where one of you dies first. Neither of us had really believed it would happen, not like this. Not at 68 when we were supposed to have another decade at least. Thomas pulled out a file. Thick. He set it on the desk between us but didn't open it. I need to tell you something before we start, he said. This is going to be difficult, not legally difficult, emotionally difficult. Just tell me what she did. Margaret came to see me in March. You weren't with her. She came alone. She told me things about Jennifer and Paul that concerned her, things she'd documented over the previous year. March. 6 months ago, 3 months after her diagnosis came back terminal, she'd been doing chemo, still walking, still herself mostly, except for the tiredness. What things? Thomas opened the file, pulled out pages, phone records, text messages, bank statements. Margaret was thorough. She started keeping track of everything after an incident in February. What incident? Jennifer asked her for money, $50,000, said it was for an investment opportunity that couldn't wait. Margaret said she needed to talk to you first. Jennifer told her not to tell you, said you wouldn't understand, and that it was better to ask forgiveness than permission. Thomas's voice was flat, professional, but his jaw was tight. Margaret told her no. Jennifer said, and I quote, "Fine, I guess I'll just wait until you're dead and get it from Dad." The air left my lungs. Margaret came to see me the next week. We spent 3 hours going through everything. She showed me texts from Paul asking about the house's value, emails from Jennifer asking about life insurance policies, a recording of a phone call where Paul asked if she'd considered making things easier on everyone by moving to a smaller place so you could access the equity. Thomas slid a paper toward me. She was in hospice care, David. She had maybe 8 weeks left, and they were circling. I looked at the paper, couldn't focus on the words. They blurred together. She made me promise not to tell you until after the funeral. She said you needed to be able to say goodbye without this hanging over it. She said you'd want to believe they were better than this right up until you couldn't anymore. Thomas's voice softened. She loved you very much. Everything she did was to protect you. What did she do? He pulled out another document. She created a testamentary trust. Everything goes into it. The house, the accounts, the life insurance, her pension survivor benefits. All of it. A trust? You're the sole beneficiary during your lifetime. You have complete control. You can live in the house, access all funds, make all decisions, but you cannot give or loan money to Jennifer or Paul. The trust explicitly forbids it. Any attempt to do so triggers a clause that removes you as beneficiary and transfers everything to charity. I stared at him. Upon your death, the trust assets are distributed according to Margaret's wishes. Jennifer and Paul are each left a symbolic bequest of $1. The remainder goes to charity. The Children's Literacy Foundation Margaret volunteered with, the hospice that cared for her, St. Catherine's, and a college fund for Emma and Sophie that they can access at 18. Jennifer and Paul cannot touch it. She cut them out. She protected you. There's a difference. Thomas pulled out more papers. She also left you letters. One for you. One to be given to Jennifer and Paul at the will reading. And she gave me instructions. He handed me an envelope. My name in Margaret's handwriting. The sight of it broke something in me. I sat there holding it, this last piece of her, and couldn't breathe right. Read it later, Thomas said quietly, when you're ready. But David, there's something else you need to know. Something Margaret witnessed that she recorded because she knew you wouldn't believe it otherwise. He turned his computer screen toward me, opened a video file. Margaret set up a camera in the hospice room. She told the staff it was so distant family could video call, but she used it to record. This is from the day before she became unresponsive. He pressed play. The video showed Margaret's hospice room, the bed, Margaret in it, thin, frail, but awake. The door opened. Jennifer came in, alone. "Hey, Mom." "Jennifer, you came." Margaret's voice was weak but clear. Yeah, I had a gap in my schedule. Jennifer sat in the chair next to the bed. Didn't hold Margaret's hand. Didn't touch her. So I wanted to talk to you about something practical. Since we're running out of time. Running out of time. Like Margaret was a limited time offer. The house. Dad's going to be alone in it. It's way too big for one person. 4 bedrooms, that yard he can't maintain anymore. I think we should talk to him about selling, moving to a senior apartment or something. Somewhere manageable. Jennifer, I'm not going to... Just hear me out. If we sell now, while the market's good, we can get top dollar. Paul and I have been looking at comps. We could easily get $650,000, maybe $700,000, if we stage it right. Dad could take $200,000 for himself, get a nice 2-bedroom condo. The rest could be divided, for everything Paul and I have done, for the kids' futures. Margaret didn't answer, just stared at her daughter. I'm not trying to be insensitive, I'm trying to be practical. You're not going to be here to help him make these decisions. Someone needs to think ahead. Get out. Margaret's voice was stronger, clear. Mom? Get out of my room. Get out now. You're being emotional. The medication. I am dying, Jennifer. I have perhaps 3 days of consciousness left. And you came here to talk about selling my house so you can divide the money. Get out. Jennifer stood. Fine. I was trying to help. I was trying to make things easier for everyone. But if you want to be difficult about it, fine. She left. The video ended. I sat there. The office was silent except for the sound of traffic outside. Thomas closed his laptop. There are 4 more recordings, he said. Similar conversations. Paul came twice. Once to ask about jewelry. Once to suggest that Margaret should make her wishes clear about asset distribution to avoid family conflict. He actually used those words while she was dying. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat on the desk. Margaret wanted you to know the truth. She wanted you to see who they really were, so you wouldn't second-guess what she'd done. And she wanted me to tell you something. Thomas leaned forward. She said, "Tell David that I'm not doing this to be cruel. I'm doing this because our children have become people who visit their dying mother to talk about money. And I won't let them spend the rest of his life doing the same to him." I couldn't speak. Thomas pulled out another paper. "This is your copy of the trust. Read it. Call me if you have questions. The will reading is Friday at 2 p.m. Jennifer and Paul will be informed of their inheritance at that time. I expect they'll be upset. Upset. Angry. Potentially volatile. I'll have security present." He paused. "Margaret also left you this." He handed me a small key. "Safety deposit box. Bank of America on Maple Street. Box 347. Margaret put something in. There for you. She wouldn't tell me what. Said you'd know what to do with it when the time came." I took the key. Small, cold, a final piece of Margaret's puzzle. "One more thing," Thomas said. "At the funeral, when Jennifer asked about money, I heard it. I noted it. If they contest the will, that statement goes into evidence. A woman asking about inheritance money at her mother's burial before the body is in the ground tends not to play well with judges. You think they'll contest it? I think they'll try everything." He met my eyes. "Margaret prepared for that too. The will is airtight. I've had 2 other attorneys review it. But they'll make noise. They'll threaten. They might try to claim undue influence or diminished capacity. Margaret prepared for all of it, including a cognitive evaluation she did in February showing perfect mental acuity, and a letter explaining in her own words exactly why she made these choices. He stood, extended his hand. I shook it. She loved you, David. Everything she did out of love. Remember that when things get ugly. I drove home in a fog. Ruth was at the house making lunch. Soup. Margaret's recipe. She took one look at my face and sat me down at the kitchen table. What happened? I told her. All of it. The videos, the trust, Margaret's documentation, everything. Ruth cried. Not surprise tears, grief tears. She told me she was worried. I didn't know it was that bad. They came to her hospice room to talk about money. I know. Ruth grabbed my hand. But she protected you. That's what matters now. She made sure they can't hurt you. I pulled out Margaret's letter, still sealed. Ruth saw it. I'll give you privacy, she said. But I opened it there, needed her there, needed to not be alone for this. Margaret's handwriting, shaky toward the end, but still hers. My David, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and Thomas has told you what I did. You're probably angry with me for not telling you. Probably hurt that I didn't trust you to handle this yourself. But that's not it. I trust you completely. I know you. That's the problem. You would have tried to fix them. You would have sat Jennifer and Paul down and talked to them. Explained that family isn't about money, that love isn't transactional. You would have believed that if you just said the right thing, showed them the right example, they'd understand. But David, they're not going to understand. I've watched them for years now, and I've seen what they've become. They're not bad people. They're empty people. Somewhere along the way, they learned to measure everything in dollars, to see relationships as exchanges, to view love as a resource to be leveraged. I don't know if we did that to them. I've spent months wondering. Did we give them too much? Not enough? Did we teach them the wrong lessons? But I can't change it now. All I can do is make sure they don't spend your remaining years treating you like an ATM with a heartbeat. The trust protects you. You have everything you need. You can't give them money even if you want to. And you will want to. When Jennifer cries, when Paul explains how desperate he is, when they bring Emma and Sophie and tell you the girls need help with college, you'll want to help. That's who you are. But I won't let you. I won't let them bleed you dry and leave you with nothing but resentment. I won't let them take from you what little time you have left. The money goes to charity when you die, to causes we both believed in, to literacy programs, to hospice care, to the church that held us through 50 years of life. That's a legacy worth leaving. Jennifer and Paul get $1 each, not because I hate them, but because I won't reward cruelty. I won't validate the people they've chosen to become. Maybe someday they'll understand. Probably not. But at least you'll be safe from them. I'm sorry I'm leaving you alone. I'm sorry I'm not there to hold your hand through this. But you're stronger than you think, David. You've always been stronger than you thought. Live well, be happy, find joy in whatever time you have left. That's my last wish for you. I love you. I've loved you since I was 23 years old. I'll love you wherever I am now. Always. Margaret. I folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope. Ruth was crying. So was I. She knew, Ruth whispered. She knew exactly what would happen. The will reading was Friday at 2 p.m. Thomas's office. Conference room. Thomas at the head of the table, his assistant to his right, a security guard by the door. Not obvious, just present. I sat in a chair along the wall, not at the table. Thomas had suggested it. Better to be separate, he'd said, physically removed from the immediate impact. Jennifer and Paul arrived together. Jennifer wore her business suit, charcoal gray, expensive, the kind she wore to important meetings. Paul had on slacks and a button-down. They both looked professional, prepared, like this was a business transaction. "Hey, Dad." Jennifer hugged me. Normal, warm, even. "How are you holding up?" "Fine." "Good. That's good." She sat at the table. Paul sat next to her. They put their phones face down on the table, ready to take notes, ready for the reading. Thomas cleared his throat. "Thank you for coming. This is the formal reading of Margaret Elizabeth Crawford's last will and testament, executed March 15th of this year. Present are the decedent's surviving spouse, David Crawford, and her children, Jennifer Crawford Hartwell and Paul Crawford." He opened the will, started reading, the formal language, the opening clauses. Jennifer and Paul listened politely, patient. Thomas got to the distribution section. "To my daughter Jennifer and my son Paul, I leave the sum of $1 each, to be paid from the estate's liquid assets." Silence. Jennifer leaned forward. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your mother left you each a symbolic bequest of $1. There must be a mistake." Jennifer's voice was still calm, controlled. "We need to see the full document." Thomas slid copies across the table. The remainder of the estate, including the marital home, all financial accounts, life insurance proceeds, and pension benefits, has been placed in an irrevocable trust with David Crawford as sole lifetime beneficiary. Paul was reading fast, flipping pages. "This says we can't inherit anything, even after Dad dies." "Correct. Upon David's death, the trust assets are distributed to charity." Margaret specified several organizations. "This is insane." Jennifer's voice rose. "She was dying. She was on medication. She obviously wasn't in her right mind." Thomas pulled out another document. "Margaret underwent a comprehensive cognitive evaluation on February 12th, administered by Dr. Patricia Hendricks, a court-certified neuropsychologist. She scored in the 98th percentile across all measures. She was completely competent when she executed this will. Then someone influenced her, convinced her to do this." Jennifer looked at me. "Dad, did you know about this?" "No." "Then who? Who told her to cut us out?" Thomas's voice went cold. "Your mother made this decision independently after documenting extensive evidence of financial exploitation and emotional abuse." "Financial exploitation? We never—" Paul started. "March 3rd, you texted your mother asking about the house's assessed value. March 17th, you visited her in hospice and suggested she encourage David to sell the house and distribute the equity. April 2nd, you called her to ask whether the life insurance policy was sufficient to cover everyone's needs." Thomas was reading from a document. "Should I continue?" Paul's face went red. Jennifer stood up. "This is unbelievable. We tried to help. We tried to make sure Dad was taken care of, that Mom's affairs were in order, and this is what we get? We get accused of exploitation?" You visited your dying mother 3 times in 5 weeks. Each visit you asked about money or assets. You never asked how she was feeling. You never asked what you could do for her comfort. You asked about inheritance. Thomas's voice was sharp now, professional veneer cracking. Margaret recorded you, video and audio, every conversation. The room went silent. "That's illegal," Jennifer whispered. "Actually, under state law, it's completely legal. Single-party consent. Margaret was the single party. The recordings are admissible in any legal proceeding." Thomas pulled out a USB drive, set it on the table. "This contains every recording, every text message, every email. Margaret documented everything because she knew you'd contest. So let me be clear. If you challenge this will, these recordings become public record. Every family member, every friend, everyone at your church, they'll all hear you asking your dying mother when you get the money." Jennifer stared at the drive like it was a bomb. Paul found his voice. "This isn't fair. We're her children. We have a right." "You have no rights," Thomas cut him off. "Your mother had the absolute right to dispose of her property as she wished. She chose to protect her husband from children who viewed him as an inheritance vehicle. That was her choice. It's final." "Dad," Jennifer turned to me, voice breaking, actual tears in her eyes. "Dad, you can fix this. You can give us what she meant for us to have. I know Mom loved us. She wouldn't have wanted this." I looked at my daughter, saw her mother's eyes, her mother's hair, remembered holding her as a baby, teaching her to ride a bike, walking her down the aisle at her wedding, 38 years of memories. "Margaret left me a letter," I said quietly. "She explained everything, why she did this, what she'd seen, what you'd said. We never said anything wrong. We were trying to help. You asked her about selling the house while she was in hospice. 3 days before she died." My voice cracked. "You asked your dying mother about money. We were thinking about your future." "Stop." I stood up. "Just stop. I don't want to hear it. I don't want the excuses or the explanations or the justifications. Your mother saw who you'd become, and she protected me from it. I'm grateful to her for that." Paul slammed his hand on the table. "So that's it? You're just going to let her screw us over? After everything we've done for you?" "Everything you've done for me." I looked at him. "What exactly have you done for me, Paul?" "We've been there for you. We've helped. You visited your mother twice while she was dying, 2 times in 5 weeks. Each visit lasted less than an hour. You never stayed for dinner, never offered to sit with her so I could sleep, never asked what you could do." My hands were shaking. I pressed them against my legs. "But you called 14 times. I counted. Every call was about money, about the house, about planning for the future. You never once called to ask how I was doing. That's not fair. You want fair? Let's talk about fair. Let's talk about the $52,000 I loaned you to start your business, the business that lasted 8 months before you decided to pursue other opportunities. Did you ever pay that back, Paul? Did you even try?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "Jennifer, the down payment on your house, $65,000. You said it was a loan. You were going to pay us back once you got your promotion. That was 6 years ago. Did I ever get that money back? Did you even acknowledge it after the check cleared?" Jennifer's tears had stopped. Her face was hard now. The car payment I've been making for 3 years because you had temporary cash flow issues. $420 a month. That's $15,120. Temporary turned permanent. You stopped mentioning it. Stopped pretending you'd pay me back eventually. Just expected the transfer to keep coming. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, turned it toward them. Last year alone, I transferred 47,200 to you two, not counting the car payment, not counting the birthday money for the kids, not counting the emergencies that came up monthly. 47,200. And you know how many times you called just to talk? 4. 4 times. Once on my birthday, once on Father's Day, twice when you needed something and wanted to butter me up first. We had our own lives, our own families, Jennifer started. And I had a wife who was dying, who needed help, who needed her children. Where were you? Where were you when she couldn't get out of bed anymore, when she couldn't eat, when she was scared at 3 in the morning and needed someone besides me to tell her it would be okay? Neither of them answered. You were busy. You always were. Too busy to visit, too busy to call, but never too busy to text asking for money. Thomas cleared his throat. Is there anything else you need, David? No. We're done. Wait. Jennifer's voice was sharp. This isn't over. We'll contest. We'll fight this. Thomas looked at her. You can try. It'll cost you approximately $150,000 in legal fees based on my experience with similar cases. You'll lose. The will is airtight. But if you want to spend money, you don't have fighting a battle you can't win. That's your choice. He stood. Meeting over. Jennifer grabbed her purse. This is cruel, Dad. This is you letting her be cruel. We're your children. Yes, I said quietly. You are. And that breaks my heart more than you'll ever understand. They left. Paul didn't say goodbye. Jennifer turned at the door. When you change your mind, don't call me. I'm done. The door closed. I sat down, legs weak. Thomas's assistant left quietly. The security guard stayed by the door. That was harder than you expected, Thomas said. I thought I'd feel angrier. I'd just feel sad. Margaret knew you'd feel sad. That's why she did this herself, so you wouldn't have to. I nodded, couldn't speak. Thomas pulled out another envelope. This is for you to give to them, if you choose. Margaret wrote it. She said to wait until after the reading, until they'd had time to process. What is it? I don't know. She sealed it herself. He paused. She also wanted me to remind you about the safety deposit box. She said you'd know when to open it. I took the envelope. Thick, heavy. My name on the front in Margaret's handwriting. Take your time, Thomas said. Call me if you need anything. Anything at all. I drove home. Ruth had left that morning, back to Phoenix. You'll be okay, she'd said. It'll hurt like hell, but you'll be okay. The house was empty, quiet. I sat at the kitchen table. Same table where Margaret and I had made 1,000 decisions over 43 years. Same table where we'd argued about money and laughed about the kids and planned our future. I opened her letter. David, if you're reading this, the reading is over. Jennifer and Paul know. They're angry. They've probably said terrible things. Maybe they're threatening to contest. Maybe they've already cut you off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I put you through that. But I'm not sorry for what I did. I need you to understand something. This wasn't about punishment. This was about protection. Jennifer and Paul have spent years seeing you as a source of money, as a problem to be managed, as an asset to be liquidated. They don't see you, David. They see what you can give them. And it would have gotten worse. After I died, you would have been alone, vulnerable, grieving. They would have come to you with emergencies, with needs, with the grandchildren's futures at stake. And you would have given them everything because that's who you are. You would have given until there was nothing left, until you were eating cat food in a nursing home, wondering where it all went. I couldn't let that happen. The trust keeps you safe. You have everything you need. The house is yours. The money is yours. You can live well, travel, enjoy your retirement. Help people who actually need it, not people who just want it. But David, there's something else. Something I need you to do for me. Emma and Sophie. They're not like their parents. Not yet. They're still young enough to learn different lessons. The trust has college funds for them. But I need you to be in their lives. I need you to show them what real love looks like. What family means when it's not about money. Jennifer and Paul won't make it easy. They might try to keep the girls from you, but fight for them. Write to them. Send birthday cards. Show up. Let them know you exist. Let them know love doesn't come with a price tag. That's my last request. Save our granddaughters from becoming their parents. In the safety deposit box, you'll find something for them. For when they're older, when they can understand, when they're ready to know the truth about their grandmother. I love you, David. Thank you for 43 years of being loved completely. Thank you for being the man who deserved better than what our children became. Make the rest of your life count. That's all I want. Margaret. I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, sat there as the afternoon faded into evening. The next day, I drove to Bank of America on Maple Street. Box 347. The bank officer led me to the vault, left me alone with the box. Inside, 2 sealed envelopes, Emma's name on one, Sophie's name on the other, and a letter for me. David, these are for the girls when they turn 18, letters explaining everything, why I set up the trust the way I did, what their parents said and did. The recordings are in here too on thumb drives. I want them to know the truth. But only when they're old enough to understand. Only when they can make their own choices about who they want to be. Keep these safe. When the time comes, you'll know what to do. M. I put the envelopes back in the box, locked it, drove home. 3 weeks passed. Jennifer and Paul didn't call, didn't text, no contact at all, like I'd ceased to exist the moment they realized I couldn't give them money. I thought about calling them, thought about trying to explain. But Margaret's words echoed in my head. They don't see you. They see what you can give them. Instead, I sent birthday cards to Emma and Sophie. Both their birthdays were in November, 2 weeks apart. I sent cards with handwritten notes. Nothing about the will, nothing about the trust. Just, happy birthday. Grandpa loves you. Amanda called 2 days later. David, I'm going to ask you not to contact the girls. They're my granddaughters, and they're my daughters, and I don't think it's healthy for them to have contact with someone who's caused so much family pain. I haven't caused anything, Amanda. I just enforced your mother-in-law's wishes. Margaret was sick. She wasn't thinking clearly. She scored in the 98th percentile on a cognitive evaluation. She was thinking very clearly. Silence. Then, the cards upset Jennifer and Paul. So please, just respect our boundaries. Let us handle this as a family. I am family. Goodbye, David. She hung up. I sent cards anyway. Every holiday, every birthday. I sent them even though I knew Jennifer probably threw them away. I sent them because Margaret asked me to. Because somewhere, someday, Emma and Sophie might wonder if anyone had cared. And I wanted them to know someone did. Christmas came. No calls, no visits. I spent it with Ruth, who flew back for a week. We cooked Margaret's recipes, looked at old photos, cried at appropriate times. Have you heard from them? Ruth asked. No. Good. Good? David, you're eating meals. You're sleeping. You're not stressed about money or phone calls or manufactured emergencies. For the first time in years, you're okay. That's good. She was right. I was okay. Not happy, not healed, but okay. February came. Almost a year since Margaret's diagnosis. I visited her grave every week, brought flowers, talked to her like she could hear, told her about the garden I was planning for spring, about the neighbor's cat that had adopted me, about the book club I'd joined at the library where she used to work. Small things. Quiet things. A life that was mine. March 15th. 1 year since Margaret signed the will. I went to the cemetery, stood at her grave. The headstone we'd picked out together. Simple. Elegant. Her name. Her dates. And the words she'd chosen. She loved deeply and well. A car pulled up behind mine. I turned. Jennifer. She got out, walked toward me. Slowly. She looked older, tired. There were lines around her eyes I hadn't noticed before. We stood there, 10 feet apart, Margaret's grave between us. Hi, Dad. Jennifer. I've been thinking about coming here for weeks. Took me this long to work up the nerve. She looked at the headstone. I miss her. I didn't answer. I know you don't believe that. I know you think I didn't care, but I did. I do. She was my mom. Then why didn't you act like it? She flinched. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I was busy. I was stressed. I had my own problems. Those are reasons, but they're not excuses. The wind picked up. Cold. March in Ohio. Paul and I fought, Jennifer said. About the will. About Mom. About what we did wrong. He thinks we did nothing wrong. That Mom was being vindictive. But I've been reading the trust document over and over, and I found the clause about the recordings. She looked at me. Did you watch them? No. Thomas said they existed, evidence of what we said. I've been trying to remember exactly what I said to her, what I asked. And I can't remember specifics, but I remember the feeling. I remember being frustrated that she wouldn't talk about practical things, that she was focused on dying instead of planning. Her voice broke. I asked my dying mother to plan for my financial future. What kind of person does that? I don't know, Jennifer. You tell me. She wrapped her arms around herself. I want to say I'm sorry. I want to say I didn't mean it the way it sounded. But that would be a lie, wouldn't it? I meant it exactly the way it sounded. I was worried about money. I was thinking about the house and the inheritance and what I'd get. And Mom knew. She knew. And she protected you from me. Tears ran down her face. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I can, but I needed you to know I'm aware. I'm aware of what I did, what I became. I stood there, wanting to forgive her, wanting to believe this was real. But Margaret's voice in my head, they'll cry. They'll explain how desperate they are. That's who you are. What do you want, Jennifer? Nothing. I don't want anything. I just wanted to tell you I'm sorry, and that I understand why Mom did what she did. She pulled an envelope from her pocket. I wrote to Emma and Sophie, told them about Grandma, about how much she loved them. I know you've been sending cards. Amanda told me. I'm not asking you to stop. I'm asking you to keep doing it. They should know they have a grandfather who cares. She set the envelope on Margaret's headstone. That's for you. You don't have to read it. I just needed to write it. She turned to leave. Stopped. Dad? For what it's worth, you're eating regularly, right? Taking care of yourself? Yes. Good. Mom would want that. She got in her car, drove away. I stood there until the sun started to set. Then I picked up Jennifer's envelope, took it home, set it on the kitchen table, unopened. 2 days later, I opened it. Dad, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't forgive myself. I've spent weeks trying to figure out when it happened, when I became someone who valued money over people, over my own mother. I don't have an answer. It was gradual. A series of small choices that became patterns. That became character. I wish I could say it was just stress or bad circumstances, but it wasn't. It was me. My choices, my priorities. Mom knew. She tried to warn me. I remember now, little comments over the years. Money isn't everything, honey. The girls need you, not your paycheck. When was the last time you just enjoyed something? I dismissed them. Thought she didn't understand. Thought she was out of touch with how expensive life had become. She understood perfectly. She understood I was drowning in a life I'd built on the wrong foundation. The trust protects you. I'm glad. I'm angry about it. And I'm glad about it. And I'm ashamed I need protection from my own daughter. But I'm glad you have it. I won't ask for your forgiveness. I won't ask for a relationship. I just want you to know I see it now. I see what I did, what I lost. Take care of yourself. Let Emma and Sophie know their grandmother loved them. Jennifer. I folded the letter, put it with Margaret's, sat at the kitchen table as evening fell. The phone rang. Paul. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Dad. His voice was rough. Jennifer told me she went to see you at the cemetery. She did. I told her she was crazy, that it wouldn't change anything, that you'd made your choice to side with Mom against us. He paused. But then I got drunk last night and watched the video. What video? Thomas sent it. Said we had a right to see what Mom recorded. I'd been avoiding it. Didn't want to see her like that. Didn't want to face what we'd said. But I got drunk enough that I thought I could handle it. His breathing was heavy, unsteady. I watched myself ask her about life insurance while she was in a hospice bed. I watched myself suggest she pressure you to sell the house so we could optimize the equity. That's the word I used. Optimize. like she was a stock portfolio. Silence. Then, "Dad, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I can, but I need you to know I saw it. I saw what I am, and I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry." He hung up before I could respond. I sat there holding the phone. Margaret's words in my head. Maybe someday they'll understand. Probably not. Maybe. Maybe was better than never. Spring came. I planted Margaret's garden, tomatoes, peppers, the flowers she'd loved. Worked the soil with my hands until my back ached, and I felt clean somehow. Emma's 18th birthday was in November. 7 years away. 7 years to keep sending cards, to stay present, to be the grandfather who didn't give up. The safety deposit box waited. Margaret's letters for the girls waited. The truth waited. I'd deliver it when the time came, when they were old enough, when they could choose who they wanted to be. Until then, I had Margaret's garden, her house, her memory, and the life she'd protected for me. Some mornings I still reached for 2 cups instead of 1, still expected to hear her voice from the bedroom, still turned to tell her something before remembering she was gone. But I was okay, eating meals, sleeping, living the life she'd wanted me to have. That was enough. That would have to be enough. If you like this story, please like it, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions in the comments. To listen to more stories, click on the window on the right. Thank you for being with us.